Welcome to Pure Gold, an honest, no-nonsense take on what it means to live daily with sexual integrity, offering practical tips and suggestions on how to strengthen your character, deepen your transparency, and grow in truth through the power of Jesus Christ.
Happy New Year, everyone, from Purity for Life and the Pure Gold podcast. My name is Frank Honus, and I want to welcome you guys to the very first podcast of 2021. It has been quite a few months since we've shared some brand new content with you and shared a podcast with you. Man, I'm telling you, the fall was a crazy fall. In a good way, not in a bad way. We had a really great fall. Everybody's in our family's very healthy, and we're just thankful to Jesus for that. And so it was a great fall, but just really busy, between work and kids and school and ministry and all good stuff. So we're really thankful for that. But I just wasn't able to get out a whole lot of podcasts in the fall, but I am. It's my goal, right? My resolution to really ramp it up, if you will, and put out some brand new content this year. And I am really trying to do that on the third day of January. I'm trying to get our very first episode started here, and I'm excited to do that. So I want to welcome you to our very first episode of 2021 on the Pure Gold podcast. Just real quickly, just want to take a minute or two just to share a little bit. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for all your support. I want to thank you for all of your listens on our podcast, our audio version of our podcast, also your views through video and the YouTube channel and the video content we share on our Facebook, all our social media accounts. Super grateful. We are just so thankful for all of the support and all the listens and views, and we're thankful for you and for how serious you are about your recovery. How many of you write us and send us messages and encouragement about what this podcast means to you, about what our ministry means to you. So from the bottom of my heart and from my wife and I, Tracy and I, we are so thankful to you. And so we just want to say that first and foremost right out of the gate. But also, we are excited for the direction that I am, really feeling like the Lord wants us to take, Purity for Life, but more specifically the Pure Gold podcast in 2021. I shared a little bit about that in our video a few days ago. I released just as a, kind of coming soon video that the podcast is coming soon. So in 2021, I feel like the Lord is really directing us to, if you will, open up the gates a little bit. And when I say that, I mean as far as the content we release and specifically what we talk about. Purity for Life has always been a ministry helping individuals live with sexual integrity through Jesus Christ. It's always been the goal. It always will be the goal. But I've just more in the last several months just felt like I want to share more about my life, and I want to share more gold, if you will, pardon the pun, but I want to share more about what I'm learning in my walk with Jesus, in my quiet times, and becoming a man who is growing to become more like Jesus, and a husband, right, and a father. I feel like there's a lot there. So there will be some podcasts that we release that aren't super centered maybe on sexual purity and sexual integrity, but more on maybe discipleship and spiritual growth, and might be directed towards husbands or just dads, or it might be a topic on how we minister in the workplace, or just whatever I feel like the Lord is kind of directing me in my own life. So this is still a podcast very much for those who are wanting to grow in their recovery journeys from a pornography addiction, some kind of sexual addiction. We are always going to keep that as a core value of our ministry. But I also feel like we are growing to the point, I'm coming to the place in my life where I want to share more. I want to share different aspects of my life, not just one aspect, not just one sort of pillar, if you will, of my life. So you guys hopefully will see that. And I want to invite you guys to listen, to watch as as I share audio, as I share video. Sometimes it'll be just audio, sometimes it'll be video. But I wanted this first podcast just to be an audio and a video for those who listen, but also who watch. If you watch on YouTube or if you listen just on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from, we are able to be heard and viewed and seen on pretty much all major platforms. So really excited for what is ahead in 2021 on the Pure Gold podcast. So I have a lot that I want to share this year. I've been actually making a list of topics and ideas, things that I feel like I've been learning and I want to talk about, things I want to impart to you, things I want to encourage you with, things I'm still growing in, I'm still walking through. But there's lots of things on my heart that I've got a little note built in my phone and with a lot of ideas and topics that I plan to share new content on. But the first podcast of 2021, I really felt like I wanted to direct it towards those who are walking in recovery. Those of you who are walking in recovery from a sexual addiction, from a pornography addiction, from some kind of addiction period. As you know, you've heard probably on the website my story. If you're familiar with the ministry, you're maybe familiar with my story. This is a huge area of my life. This is probably the most authentic area of my life, if you will, the area that I feel like I've grown the most in my life. Especially in the last 11 years, from being addicted to pornography for 13 years of my life to the last 11 years where I've been, free, walking in freedom, walking in tremendous healing. And I'm so thankful to God for that and for the people in my life, my wife, and just so many people that helped me out with that. So naturally, I wanted to start the new year kind of on a recovery topic. And so here's the question I want to just throw out there as we kick off 2021. For those of you, and if this isn't you, maybe you know someone who is really struggling with addiction, who could really, be benefited, who could really benefit, be encouraged by listening to this or watching this. Please share this with them, send them this podcast. Or maybe this is just you, and you have struggled for months, for years in addiction, and maybe more recently you've come into recovery, or in the last year or 5 years or whatever it might be, and you're starting a brand new year. Sometimes the holidays can be really difficult, right? The holidays can be really tough as far as, there can be some major triggers. There can be a lot of pain surrounded by that surround the holidays. And then we come to a new year and it's like, wow, we've got this kind of overwhelming feeling of like, what do I do? What do I do? Where do I go? Where should I be at in a new year? So I want to ask you this question. What do you want from your recovery in 2021? What do you want from your recovery in 2021? Now, some might listen to that, hear that question and say, well, that's kind of a selfish question to ask. What do I want? I should be the one giving or, Well, I think, I think heart health and taking care of your health, self-care is really healthy. And I feel like this is a very healthy question to ask yourself. What do you want from your recovery in 2021? So if I were to ask you to make a wish list, all right? Just kind of picture this in your mind. If I were to ask you to make sort of a wish list of your top 5 destinations that you'd love to travel to in the entire world, what would they be? Top 5 places you'd love to go to. What places would they be that you travel to? Or maybe you make a bucket list of 10 or 20 things that you'd like to do in your entire life, right? Before you leave this earth. What would they be? No doubt many of you guys have already thought about these things, these questions before. Maybe you have your list ready of places, just, once the pandemic's over with and, COVID's not, you want to be traveling, right? You want to jump on a plane and you've got all your places you want to go, or you have things in your life that you want to do, things you want to accomplish before you leave this place. I'm sure many of us have thought about those dreams. But again, here's the question. What do you want in 2021 from your recovery? See, it's very easy, I think, for us to think about our wish lists right? And the places we'd love to go, or maybe the ways we want to improve our home, or improve our career, or the places we'd like to be at in 5 or 10 years, financially, or like I said, maybe we have a list of things we want to do before we die, right? But do we think about our hearts? Your recovery journey that you're on. If I were to ask you to envision what kind of person you would like to be on December 31st, 2021, what kind of person would that be? What kind of person would that be? At the very end of this new year, where do you want to be at in your life, on your journey in recovery? And so I really believe that every year around this time, we should sort of be looking in two directions. As we're at the end of the year, and we're at the end of the current calendar year. I know I felt like this at the very last few days of 2020. We should be looking in two directions. We should be looking backwards at the previous year that we've just walked through, and we need to be looking forwards towards the new year, right? And asking questions. Lots and lots of good questions. How have we grown? What lessons have we learned? And maybe there's some harder questions, that you'd have the courage to sort of ask yourself some harder questions. Where have we struggled? Where have I struggled? Where have I declined in my progress? Maybe as a dad, as a husband, as a worker, as a person in recovery. We can all ask these questions. But even more importantly, who do you want to become in 2021? What kind of person do you want to be by the end of 2021? I'm going to ask you this first in your recovery. Where would you like to be at in your recovery by the end of 2021? Where would you like to be at as a husband, as a wife, as a spouse, as a dad, as a worker, whatever roles you play in your life? Where would you like to be at? And so no matter what 2020 was like, we all know what 2020, how crazy 2020 has been for our world, for our culture, between the pandemic, between COVID-19 and a lot of the social issues going on, the racial tensions and the political chaos going out through the elections. 2020 was just absurd. 2020 was wild. But no matter what 2020 was like, we need to press forward. And we need to have a constant desire to get better. I don't want to just stop. I don't want to just look at 2020 and go, I just hope 2021's better than 2020. I see a lot of that out there. I see a lot of that on social media. I see a lot of that, that conversation going on, that we just hope we can just get by. We're comparing everything to last year. And I just think that's a really, really unhealthy mindset. My goal, is to press forward with this constant desire to get better, to get healthier, to heal more, to grow more, right? And to remember that any mistakes that I made in this past year, it doesn't discount all the progress that I've made, right? I think sometimes that's a false mindset we have. I know the guys I work with in the support group that I lead, sometimes, it's come up before where if there's a slip, and the guy looks at porn, or a guy masturbates or fantasizes or acts out in some way, he feels like he loses all that progress he made and he has to go back to square one. He's got to go back to the beginning. And that's just not true. That's a lie. So no matter what, the year's been like, the mistakes you've made, the ways you've struggled, it doesn't discount the progress you've made in your life. You're not starting over from scratch. And it's really, really important that you realize that. You have to keep moving. You have to keep moving.
Thanks for listening to Pure Gold, our weekly podcast from Purity for Life. Don't forget to visit our website for additional content, including our entire podcast archive, articles, links, and videos to help encourage you on your journey for sexual purity. All this and more can be found at pflhome.com.